Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Tierney, and I'm here with Bodie and Sanders, and it's our debut episode of the Bo and Joe Show, and we're going to try to mix things up. Bo is going to be the sports expert. I am a sports fan as well, but in a much more broader perspective. I'm not a statistician. I don't know everybody's ERA. I don't know your batting averages, but I do know the societal and human impact of sports in many regards. I think that Bo is going to carry the technical aspects, and I'm certainly going to interject as I go along. And I'm going to be honest, I'm learning more about sports every day. Certainly the Coast to Coast Network, we're big sports fans, and I thank the guys for broadening my horizons, and Bo as well. So I'm going to preface that and my introduction in that aspect of sports and my love of them, and I'm going to throw it over to Bo. And Bo, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your history, and you're a lifelong athlete, a little bit different than myself, and you're certainly going to bring a different perspective than I am.
Well, Joe, it's okay to not be a sports wonk. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're all here to learn. Sports is an ever-evolving game, so it's okay. For those who are tuning in for the first time that don't know my background, I started out playing sports in what we used to call junior high. Now it's called what? Middle school. Went on to play in high school. Got an opportunity to play college football at the oldest HBCU in the country, Cheyney University. Was there one semester, Cheyney's Division II program. And then I got an opportunity to visit Villanova, fell in love with it. Villanova was bringing its program back after Howie Long got drafted to the Raiders. They dropped the program for 3 years. And then 84 was going to be their resurgence year. And so I transferred in and finished my athletic career at Villanova. So I love sports like most Americans. And, I'm not a sports wonk, but I can talk. So let's talk sports.
All right, you can talk. And I think that we're saying that we're going to talk sports, but we're also going to be speaking about inclusion and diversity. And that's really, tonight we're going to talk sports, but in a broader sense, we're going to talk about it in a different genre than just the typical sports program, I believe.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in. I mean, we said that we're going to talk about the Olympics tonight, and I think that some athletes, some sports, I'm much more drawn to the female perspective. I think there are sports that and in the same respect too, I think that there are sports that I think are more male dominated, and I'm attracted to them in the Olympics. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the controversy surrounding Sha'Carri Richardson and how she was disqualified based on her positive test for THC. What are your thoughts on that? I certainly have my thoughts, but I'm going to throw it to you and see what you have to think, and then I'll interject as we go along.
Well, rules are the rules. Rules are there for a reason. Unfortunately, we have to have some empathy for how she was put herself in that position. Unfortunately, she found out her mother passed away, and she was she was absolutely, depressed. Sad, upset, and and she fell on the sword and admitted it. But what's great about the silver lining is today, our elected officials are moving towards making marijuana legal federally. We know we have about anywhere between 13 and 31 states where they sell marijuana for either health purposes or medicinal purposes. But that, so we're moving in the right direction. So once that happens, then it'll be up to the American Olympic Committee to then push the global Olympic Committee to remove marijuana off that to not do list, that banned list. So we're moving in the right direction. But another silver lining, she's young enough where she is going to dominate in the next Olympics. So matter of fact, I feel sorry for the people who are going to compete against her in the world competition. If it's in a year or two, she's going to blow it out of the water. So, but it's just, unfortunately, the rules are the rules, and we all have to play by them, and they're there for a reason.
I agree. I think I agree with that. I don't necessarily want to delve into the discussion about the legalization of marijuana. I'm torn about that. I will say, and certainly medicinal purposes, I agree with it 100%. Recreational use, I'm torn about it. I do have a criminal justice background, and I've seen the perils of drug addiction. And in my perspective, I have two perspectives on it. Obviously, alcohol certainly can be abused, and in some cases, I've seen many instances where marijuana is a gateway drug. So I don't want to weigh in on that. It's a personal decision in the same respect that alcohol is, but I do see that there can be detriments to that. And I believe that legalization is driven by profit, and I don't necessarily believe that it's has the people in mind. I think it's driven because it's a money-making business, as so many things are. And I want to speak about the Olympics in that regard too, but I don't want to divert from Sha'Carri. I think that she's 21 years old, and they keep, the media is, and I want to speak about the media too. So really what happened was they keep referring to her mother as her birth mother, which of course that label leads us all to know that that was certainly not a traditional relationship. She was raised by her grandmother and her aunt. So I'm sure that was difficult to hear. And of course, she was told by a reporter, which really puts a different spin on it. That's how she found out. And certainly that was alarming. Most people wouldn't be finding out from a reporter that their mother had died. So you know that there's some tension there. There's some discord there. So that was already some type of contentious relationship, I'm guessing. Obviously, we don't know. So it was certainly a sensitive topic. And I think she's a young woman. I do believe that, and she accepted responsibility. She took the sanction and the suspension very well, at least publicly. I'm certain that privately it was a heartbreaking decision for her. For me, I think the bigger controversy is that she wasn't allowed to compete in the relay, and I have an issue with the U.S. track and field for not allowing her. Her suspension would have been concluded by the time the relays came in, and I read about their reasoning, but the reality is she paid the price. And if she's got a 10.72 second 100 meter, why wouldn't we be letting her compete in the relay? So I do have an issue with that aspect of the story. What do you think?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I don't know what the team coaches or the folks that make the decision to withhold her from competing in the relay was. You say you read about it or you heard about it?
I read a little bit about it, and they said that, it wouldn't have been fair to the other athletes who had already who had also spent their life and they didn't break the rules. At least they weren't caught breaking the rules. And that wouldn't be fair that they also had a lifelong pursuit and dream of making the Olympics. So, of course, I understand that perspective. So I see both sides of the coin. And I know that we talked about this before we came on, and that also brings into, then we have Shelby Houlihan. She's the athlete who tested positive for steroids and said it came from a burrito laced with pig, well, not laced, but a pig organ. And there have been studies that say it is possible. It is possible that you can get a false positive from that. And she was disqualified rightly as well, because how could that be proven either way? So again, rules are rules, and I don't know how long her suspension was, but she was disqualified from the Olympics as well. So at least there's some it's equitable. It was an equitable disqualification for both of them, and I don't recall any other women or athletes have been disqualified this Olympics. So I think that there's some comfort there, that there's some consistency, and I appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah, there have been many athletes that have gone through that process of taking vitamins or eating something, and that food having an effect on their body. So if past this prologue, there have been athletes that have said publicly 2 or 3 months before they get tested, they're not eating anything that can jeopardize their opportunities to go to the Olympics. So there are, just like in the NFL, they have a list of foods that they know that they've tested that will not increase their, testosterone levels and all of those things. So, the examples are out there. So you can't trust the food truck on the side of the road because you don't know what they're putting in the food, right? That's true. Yeah. You can't do it. You have to make your own meals or buy your own meals, knowing what's in it, what's on the list.
And all of these athletes also have coaches, so I'm sure they've been coached in many regards, so they're aware of it. And Sha'Carri admitted she was aware of it and she did it anyway. And so that leads to the discussion that obviously she knew she was going to get tested, and I can't speak to the reasons why she did it. So Tim Fielder has a comment. Chris, you want to bring that up? And I think he's saying she should not have been banned because marijuana makes you slower, which is true. But at the same point, I think, Bo and I both agree that rules are rules. And I think that the bigger question is that shouldn't be on the banned substance list. And it opens up a broader conversation and a broader discussion. And as Bo said, they're going to be looking at that and legalizing that. But of course, just because the U.S. is legalizing it and the federal government, it's still up to the IOC, and
that's correct.
And that's an international body. It may have no impact.
You're absolutely right. It may have no impact at all because the larger global group is different countries and different cultures. So it may not have an effect at all. So we may be the first country, and I don't know this because I'm not, haven't studied it, but if we do move in that direction and decriminalize it federally, that doesn't mean anything globally if you're competing in global events that are governed by a global group of people. So you're right. You're absolutely right.
And that's going to be perhaps make it even more difficult for these athletes on their home soil. They will be able to enjoy that substance if they choose to, but I think all athletes have to make sacrifices to be successful, and if that's one of the sacrifices, then you might have to put that down. I mean that's the reality. So when I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the commercialization of the Olympics. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I read about that today a little bit, and it's always been something that I've been cognizant of. I don't believe, I think that having professional athletes in the games has altered the original intent. I'm not saying it necessarily is good or bad. I do think it takes away from some of it when we're having professional basketball players, professional baseball players, and you look at and those folks have, it's unfair in some regards because those players have, 7-figure incomes. And then we have the amateurs who really make nothing. And then you have the IOC makes money, the networks make money. And I didn't even realize this until today, that, athletes who get a gold medal, I think in 2018, and I wrote it down, I forget how much, 37,500 for every gold medal and 22,500 for a silver and 15,000 for a bronze. And then teams split a pot. So which, when you're looking at the money that the IOC makes, that, the country, well, the countries is divided because they're putting in a lot of money. And I think that that's short-term gains. And after the Olympics take off and leave those countries, they often suffer. I mean, so I don't want to speak to that. I'm not well versed in that. But what do you think? I think that the amateur athletes really certainly can't. They're the stars of the show. They're the ones who have dedicated their lives, and they're making nothing. And then we have these professional baseball players and basketball players who get a lot of glory, and they have the big paychecks. And do you think that's fair? What's your opinion on that?
Well, based on my knowledge and what I remember, we weren't the first country to do it. All of the other countries started allowing their amateur athletes to go pro and then play in the Olympics. And once we started losing some of the important games, like our amateurs were now playing against professionals, that's where the Dream Team came in, right? So we had, let's say 4 years prior to that, we had college basketball players playing against professional basketball players in the Olympics. And, we as Americans, we're competitive. We want to be number one. We want to be seen as number one. We weren't having it. So we changed the rules and said, no. We want our professional athletes to compete against their professional athletes. And that's when things changed again, right? So they basically, the other countries started it, and we wrapped it up and finished it and squashed it and have been basically, winning the most medals ever since. Now, in terms of the money, listen, some people say sports is just sports. And I absolutely, totally disagree. Sports is an industry, is a business just like any other business, right? Some people think sports, it shouldn't be taken as seriously as other industries, right? Other businesses, other jobs. And I disagree with that. Sports is a business. We've made it a business. It's a global business. It should be looked upon as a global business. We've now matured from amateur sports in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, right? And then all of a sudden the 60s and the 70s came around, and, money started to slowly, get involved in sports. And so it's a business. It's $1 trillion a year business. So you got to go with the flow, right? You have to embrace it, evolve, or you're going to lose. Right. So if you like competition, and you want to win, and if we're sticking to the Olympics, if we want to say we won more gold medals than any other country, and we won the overall Olympics, right?
Right.
You got to play the game. So how do you play the game? You go by the rules. If their professional athletes are playing, our professional athletes can play. So,
all right. So we're gonna have our first our first disagreement here, Bodine. I think that we should. I think that we should be leaders and not followers. And just because other countries were bringing in their professional athletes, I think that we should have held ourselves to a higher integrity. So I'll leave that one at that. I want to bring up, but the business aspect. I think that professional sports are a business. I don't have any arguments with there. Brandon saying sports is a business. Tim Fielder saying, which I can't speak to this, but Tim is saying the NFL is a nonprofit the last time he checked, which I think is comical. If it's true, okay. But, certainly endorsements and somebody's making a profit out of the NFL. That's certainly true. And I'm going to throw this out there, and this might get some backlash, but I know bail bondsmen are making some money off of the NFL. So that's a different subject. We got a lot of certainly domestic violence abusers in the NFL. And we can speak to head injuries in the NFL on another day, and that.
Yeah, those are total different conversations.
Right. So we're not going there tonight, but so I don't know. What do you think? The NFL is certainly a moneymaker for somebody, regardless of whether it's a nonprofit or not.
No question. The NFL is a major business. The NFL is a unique business. There's only really one country that plays similar football to America, and that's Canada. But that's why our American football is the number one sport here in America. Obviously, globally, soccer is the number one sport. But in terms of American football, obviously, and there are people all over the world that love American football, no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, football is a unique sport for America, and obviously, I'm partial and biased to it. So, but I could be critical of it as well. The highest valued team in the world is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but our producer Chris Mabry is he's from Dallas, and he's a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. Our Randy also is, and I don't know if Randy's on tonight. I don't see him, but even the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are their own entity in themselves, and then they're certainly popular. Cheerleading is a sport I'd love to talk about one night. That is one I'm familiar with and I like, so I may know a little bit more about that than you. I don't know, unless. Of course, you may know a few cheerleaders from your days and the football team. But I want to bring up Brandon's comment, and I always bring up comments when somebody agrees with me. So
what did Brandon say?
And Chris, you want to bring that up? We should be leaders and use non-pro players. So I'm not alone in that. And Brandon is, we're closely akin. We're a couple in some respects. I'm the queen of coast to coast. He's the king. So.
Hey, listen, I don't want to waver. What I'll say is this. If all the other countries used amateur athletes, I would be perfectly fine with it because we would still win. But because they knew they had an advantage based on our rules, they changed the rules. They moved the goalpost. So we had to move the goalpost back, right? So, I mean, in that respect, if we were on equal grounds, then I'd be fine with it. So now that we're on equal grounds, right? The money tends to cloud the conversation and the mindset and people's decisions and their belief structure. So again, I get it. So
yeah. So I'm going to go with the old mothers. Winning isn't everything.
Hey.
So, and we'll leave it there. But,
yeah. So let's talk about the people that we're interested in seeing in the Olympics.
All right. Good thought. I am interested in Simone Biles. I'd like to see if that's going to be a three-peat. I am partial to gymnastics. I think that she's phenomenal in many ways. She's an advocate for reform and coaching, and certainly I don't want to generalize or be stereotypical of any sport or any coaching. There's bad apples in every profession, right down to the priesthood. So, I'm going to throw that out there. But, really there's some abuse of these young athletes, and she was an advocate and really were one of the leaders. And I can't recall that coach's name offhand, but I think that is very interesting. She certainly has a storied history, and she's a phenomenal athlete. I'd really like to see her win gold again.
Good. No, I'm interested in watching the Olympics because I like to see records broken. I like to see the competition. A specific athlete that I'm interested in seeing is Miss Cunningham, and I'm going to try to pronounce her first name, Ashanti. I think I probably butchered it, but I'm sorry. It's Miss Cunningham. She is the daughter of Randall Cunningham, former Eagles quarterback. And Randall Cunningham was the quarterback when I was at Villanova and for many years after I graduated. And she is a high jumper. And she might be the best athlete in that family because her brother played quarterback in college. I'm not sure about her mom, if her mom was an athlete, but I am interested. That could be the surprise athlete in the Olympics. She could win gold in the high jump. So
I'm interested in seeing her as well. I think that, and I think as the Olympics unfolds, I always fall in love with somebody. I don't know everybody. I don't know everybody coming in, but I love somebody by the end. They all have, because they're sharing. They're sharing their personal stories, and that's I want to bring up Brandon's comment too, because that's where I remember Randall Cunningham from the Vikings. He was on the Vikings too, and that's because we're Vikings fans, and some of my household are Vikings fans. So my sons like the Vikings, and my husband as well. So I recall him from those years.
Oh yeah.
But I also like some of the sports I like. Well, here I like Katie Ledecky. I think she's a phenomenal athlete going into the swimming competition. She has a chance to three-peat on the 800 meter. I think swimming, we're going to feel a void because Michael Phelps isn't there, but she's certainly an athlete. She's an athlete. And that's something. I think she's going to be the star of the swimming competition. Maybe not necessarily she may not medal again, although I hope she does. But I think that she's one of those sweethearts that we've fallen in love with, and I hope she pulls it out.
Well, there's a rising star in the swimming competition. Her first name is Simone. Her last name is Manuel, I think. And she's a swimmer, and she's an African-American female swimmer. So there's lots of interest. Obviously, there was lots of buzz a couple of weeks ago because of the swim caps and the ruling on the swim caps for women of color, because of their hair and the type of hair, not wanting to shave their heads or cut their hair down low so they can fit the traditional swim cap. So I think they've worked that out, if I'm not mistaken. But that young lady is a rising star. So because there are so many athletes that are participating for the first time, that generates interest because we want to hear their life story. We want to hear how they started out as little kids and how they made it to the Olympics, because those are inspirational stories. And when you're talking about more than 40 sports, that's a lot of athletes representing America participating. So there's a lot of stories that need to be told. And so, but WNBA, some of the female basketball players, obviously Sue Bird, Brittany Griner, Skylar Diggins Smith, who I guess she got married, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, and Dawn Staley, who's got the Philadelphia connection because she played at Temple. She's the head coach. So there's a lot of great reasons to want to park your gluteus maximus on a bench or the couch or a bar stool and toss up your adult beverage of your choice and just watch. And they start July 24th, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll have something to do. We've got a lot to talk about.
We do. Well, here's another sport. Well, Brandon's bringing the men in. We were going to concentrate on the women, but he's throwing that out there. What about the USA men's basketball team dropping 2 out of 3 games so far? And what is that in just the prelims? Because I didn't think that we had started competition yet.
Yeah, these are just the pre. Yeah. They're just warming up, and they're warming up because these guys are not all of the top, dream team that you could put together, because a lot of guys 2 teams are still competing for the NBA title. Some guys have already won medals and aren't interested in participating because they have other things to do. So the talent pool from the top NBA players is kind of thin, but I think they will get it together. So, yeah, I think they're just warming up, getting to know each other. I'm partial a little bit to the men's basketball team because Jay Wright, the Villanova coach, is one of the assistant coaches. So, I'll be paying attention a little bit to men's basketball. But there's some other sports that are happening right now for the first time in the Olympics. And I wrote it down. What are they?
I know what I'm interested in. Skateboarding. Yeah, I think that's new this year, isn't it? I think that's an interesting one.
It is. Skateboarding, climbing, surfing, and karate. So there's going to be new fans coming to the television because of those new sports. Now, some sports went away and then came back, like baseball and a couple of other sports. So, like I said, I think NBC, which is the Comcast, NBC Universal, owned by Comcast, they're all in. Everything, all programming is going to switch from whatever their normal programming is to the Olympics. And what is it, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a full month?
I think it might be a full month by the time the opening games. I don't know for sure. And I don't know if any of the guys know. But another sport that I love in the Olympics, I don't love it. I mean, I like diving in some respects. I usually like both the men and the women in the diving, but I love the beach volleyball. Walsh Jennings didn't, they haven't been partners for a couple of years, but the expectation was that that Kerri Walsh was going to make it again, and she just missed the trials. I think she's been in every single Olympics since 2000. So we have some new American women coming up in that sport, and it'll be interesting to watch. I think it's Alex Kleinman and April Ross are the team expected to pull it out. And Brandon's saying it's July 23rd to August 8th. And Nate is saying, I think softball is coming back, and he's right. Softball is coming back, and I think that's going to be interesting too. I mean, I enjoy softball certainly. I like to watch that. I don't know any character. I don't know any of the names or faces or the athletes in the softball trials, but it'll be interesting to watch them as they come along. I think the pitching is phenomenal. That's a great sport.
Well, I would be interested if that young lady who pitched for JMU is going to be representing America on the softball team, because she is a absolutely outstanding pitcher. So it would be, and I can't remember her name, African-American young lady. She willed her team. She beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So, so I'm interested to see how that works out. But in terms of the young lady you were talking, and I like volleyball. I'm from Florida. I love the beach, right? And my daughter played volleyball for a while, indoor volleyball, not beach volleyball. All I got to say is Father Time is undefeated. Even Michael Jordan had to retire. Right? So, right, I retired after college. Right? Everybody's got to retire at one point or another. So,
except except Tom Brady, Bo.
Oh, now hold on. You brought up Tom Brady. Let's talk about Tom Brady real quick.
All right.
Did you see the golf match last week with Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson competing against Bryson DeChambeau and Aaron Rodgers? Oh, it was absolutely made for TV. They've done this for a number of years. Tiger used to compete in it. Peyton Manning's competed in it. Our boy Charles Barkley has competed in it. He actually won last year, and he said he's done because he wants to go out on top. But it's a made for TV charity event. They raise lots of money for nonprofits. They raised a lot of money for a hunger feed the hungry organization. And I think it was like something like 2 million meals they raised. They raised money for former president, I like to call him President Barack Obama, for his charity Promise Keepers, right, in Chicago. So it was a great tournament. But Tom Brady, they lost. Tom and Phil lost to Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely a stud. He is absolutely an athlete, right? You could tell he's an athlete on the football field, but he's an athlete. He could probably play any sport he wanted. He's just got it. Unfortunately, he's playing for a team, or at least we don't know if he's going to be playing for the Green Bay Packers at the beginning of the season, because he hasn't reported to camp. So, I mean, in terms of, if we're going to talk about diversity, right, he may have to leave the Green Bay Packers and go to another team, because he should have 2 Super Bowls. He really should. And Tom has just been at the right place at the right time with the right coaches, the right players around him. But Tom is the GOAT. No question about it. He is the GOAT. He's won 7 Super Bowl rings, and he's played in 10 Super Bowls.
Well, you can't say it's all luck. He's got some talent there. But I'm going to bring up
No, hold on. I didn't mean luck in terms of his talent. I mean his luck in terms of being on the right team. Because if anything matters, when you compare basketball, football, baseball, hockey, football, the reason why football stands out is because you've got 11 guys, right, competing against 11 guys across from you. And it's really about whose heart is bigger than the other person's. I've got to will you to do what you don't want to do. My job is to destroy you. My job is to beat you down. And he's thinking the same thing. So it's a test of wills. So he can't be all he can be if he's got weak links around him. And he hasn't. He's had great tight ends, great receivers, great running back, great coach. He's been in a great position. He's also worked his butt off. I agree with that. I'm not taking anything from Tom Brady. But I do know, as a player, it's a team that you can be on a basketball team and one guy can propel you to the NBA finals, i.e. Michael Jordan.
Yeah, true.
Right? But you can't be on a football team and one guy help you get to the Super Bowl. It's not possible.
So I do want to point out, you called Aaron Rodgers a stud, and now we're talking my language, Bo. I can talk about studs all day long. I'm surrounded by them on coast to coast, so I can certainly speak to that. I'm glad you brought that up. But let's bring up Brandon's comment. Come on, Bo, Tom the GOAT.
Hey, you got to give credit where credit is due. The guy's won 7 Super Bowls. He's been to 10. Okay? Listen, I am not a New England Patriots fan. Never have been. I am not a Tom Brady fan. Never have been. But you got to give the guy credit. He's earned it. He is, in terms of quarterbacks, he's the GOAT. Is he the best athletic quarterback? No. Absolutely not. No doubt about it. But he's won more Super Bowls.
I think it really speaks to as well what we were speaking about in the beginning of the show is about sacrifice. Now he is somebody who sacrifices. His diet is so rigid. He's really dedicates his whole life to being the best physical shape that he can be in, and that certainly I think speaks to so many things. His mindset, his physique, and I really give him credit for that. He rarely drinks. I believe he's a vegan, and I think he's very strict in regards to all of those lifestyle habits that really propel us to probably our greatest physical selves.
And other athletes do it too. Not all of them, but other athletes do it too. But like I said, it's a process. It's a team game. When I say the word team, he has been in a great team environment from the coach, even the owner, sacrificing, doing the things that the team needs in order to win. So he's been in a great situation. And so, but I got to give him credit.
Well, let's touch on Aaron Rodgers since you brought him up. I mean, what do you think the outcome's going to be there? That's a sticky situation. He's got a huge, he's got a huge fan base in Green Bay. I think that will be a heartbreak certainly for the fans.
Yeah, but if the management team, because remember the Green Bay Packers don't have an owner, the community that have the season ticket holders are the owners, right? But if the management staff is not providing a better defense and a better overall team to allow his talents to shine, like Tom Brady, right? Or like Patrick Holmes, and other quarterbacks. I can't even believe I'm going brain dead on the quarterback in Seattle. He's got no choice. He knows he's he's probably a little past his prime, but he's still got enough in him where he sees himself winning a Super Bowl. So, if he wants to leave, I'm all for him, whatever he wants to do, because that's what's great about having the ability to negotiate contracts or leverage contracts or leverage your way out of town. Because if the team isn't doing all the things that are necessary, right, they could be telling him, oh, dude, we love you. We want you here. But their action shows that they're not doing everything possible to surround him with an overall. And I don't just mean defense, special teams. People forget about special teams. There are 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. That's how you win. That's how you get to the Super Bowl. And a special teams may not necessarily help you win a Super Bowl, but it can definitely allow you to lose one. So if he doesn't feel they're doing all the things that they should do, then he should leave. And if he ends up with a team that has got all the pieces in place, watch out, because the guy can throw the rock. He can throw it.
So Brandon's reminding us that it's Russell Wilson out in Seattle.
Thank you, Brandon. Russell Wilson, right? So, hey, listen, there's a lot of great quarterbacks out there that can get the job done. And even Russell Wilson was a little bit unhappy during the offseason. So let's see what that's all about.
Did you see today the report where Patrick Mahomes had a little trash talking with one of the fans, and then he backpedaled it, and I forget he was trash talking. I didn't hear the whole story, but he was trash talking another quarterback, and then he softened it and said it was just banter. But then the reality was they were saying it's not just banter. He's a competitive athlete, and you're going to trash talk your competitors. And there's really no. He's a nice guy, and they say that he was just trying to protect his image. But at the same time, a little trash talking doesn't hurt. We do it all the time. We all do it all the time, even amongst ourselves here on the network.
It's competition. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. It's competition.
So I love his diplomacy, and I really like his personality, and I appreciate that. But I think that you don't always have to be entirely diplomatic. He wasn't rude. He just was, just putting it out there. And I think that it was fine. I think that speaks to the media. Professional athletes are like anybody else now. They're under the scrutiny of the camera more so than ever, because everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's a reporter. Everybody, they try to bait some of these athletes. And I forgot there was an athlete earlier this week too. I don't know, did you see that? And I think he was, I can't recall who he was, but a fan, you told him, I think he was from the Phillies actually, and a fan told him, he was a pitcher for the Phillies. A fan called him out after the game as he was approaching the bus, and really was insulting to him. He said, I'd like to see your fat ass out there doing the same thing. And then he realized he was being recorded, and he said, yeah, that's really great. So I think that they insult these athletes and bait them, especially when they're coming off of losses or errors or something, maybe not your best game, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, they are competitive, and I think nobody wants to lose, and you're self-critical, and you certainly don't want some fan calling you out when you're down. And I think that they're really held to a higher standard in some regards. They have to keep their decorum, but it's unfair at the same time. I think that, we all deserve to have a bad day when we're having a bad day.
It's called control your emotions, and he knows better. But I will say this: was the fan a Philadelphia fan? Was he playing at home, or was he on the road? Do you know?
He was on the road. He was getting on the bus. Yeah, so
okay.
I think they were baiting him. But either way, I think, why would you be insulting your own home team? Either way.
Guess what? Yeah. Haven't you heard about Philadelphia? Oh, yeah. Philadelphia is a blue collar town. Philadelphia fans will tell you exactly what they think. Sure, and I'm not talking about the ones that go overboard, but in terms of if you're not playing well, Philadelphia fans will let you know, because they're passionate about their sport. They live vicariously through their team. And I mean every team. It could be the hockey team, baseball team, basketball team, football team, soccer team. It doesn't matter, right? Philadelphia fans live vicariously through their team and their players. So they'll give it to you. They'll give it to you. Are
you forgetting I'm from New York? I know all about it.
That's right. And we're not that far from each other, right? So
no, we're not. We might have to do a live show together in person. That could be an upcoming special. But I want to get back to the Olympics, because one of the athletes that I'm very interested in watching is Kaylee Gilchrist. Do you know her story?
No, I don't.
She's on the water polo team, and in 2019 she was on a balcony that collapsed. And if the Olympics had actually gone off on time in 2020, she was recovering from that injury, and she wouldn't have made the team because she was injured. And now she's back, she's healthy, she's back on the team, and I'm really curious. I'm curious to watch her journey, because she really had a tough road back. So I think she's going to be another interesting athlete to watch. So I didn't want to leave her out. I wanted to bring her into the fold before we fold up. So we have 12 minutes left. Well, what do you want to talk about? You throw it out there.
Well, no, I just want to say I watched the Major League Baseball All-Star game last night. It was a great game. Home runs were hit, and it was all for a good cause, for cancer, bringing awareness and raising money for cancer. So that was pretty good. I don't watch a lot of baseball until the playoffs and the World Series. But the All-Star game is a lot of fun. I didn't watch the Home Run Derby because I was busy, but so that was pretty good.
I agree. I like baseball. That is one of my favorite sports. I like the All-Star game, and I didn't watch the Home Run Derby either, but I do genuinely like to watch that. I don't know. The guys here are big baseball fans. I don't know if they want to tell us who won. I don't know who won the Home Run Derby, but I would have liked to have seen that. Um, and then I'm surprised Justin's not on tonight. He's a big baseball fan. He would tell us what was going on. But what other sports do you like in the Olympics? What are your favorites? What do you think? Well, let's talk about some of our favorite male. Obviously, you'll probably like basketball.
Well,
Um,
I ran track in junior high and senior high, and if you remember in my book, I wrote about how I used to practice with some of the track athletes who went on to compete in a couple of Olympics. And one of those guys, his nickname is the Heckler, Chip Jenkins, and he won a medal in the Olympics. And I used to practice with him and a few other guys. And I'm telling you, I ran in junior high and high school, I ran the 800, right? It's 2 laps around.
and that's long.
And let me tell you, when I practiced with these guys, I knew I was not even close in their league, but I continued to practice because it helped me get faster. So I will watch the 800 because I will then imagine and remember what it was like for me going through practice and then competing when I was in junior high and high school. So, there's a little bit of a heartstring there. So, but yeah, so I mean, I'll just watch whatever I can, whenever I can, because I like all sports. And I want to see something exciting. I want to see people break records. I want to see us get medals, all medals. My high school, two great stories. Bob Bullet Hayes, who played wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, is from my hometown. He won a medal in the Olympics in 1964.
Wow.
And Sandra Cheeseborough won a medal in the 1984 Olympics. Sandra Cheeseborough graduated from my high school. So we heard all about her, in not just in our community, but we heard about her on the school campus, because she graduated from our high school. Her picture was all over the place. She was similar to the young lady that we were talking about earlier that got disqualified for the marijuana use. She's similar to her in terms of when Sandra Cheeseborough was 17 years old, she competed in the Olympics. That's how awesome she was.
Wow.
Then she missed the 1980 Olympics because of the boycott.
Mm-hmm.
And then she competed in 84 and won 2 gold medals. So just from our high school, hearing stories like that gets you interested in just watching the Olympics, because you never know, you're going to see something great happens. And then you want to hear the stories behind those athletes.
Yeah, I love track and field. My sons run track and field, and I've always enjoyed it. So Brandon's asking us, what sports, summer or winter, do you like to see? I'm not a big fan of the Winter Olympics. I watch them, but and he's also saying Peter Alonso won the Derby, so I'm glad to see a New York team, New York representing and winning. So thanks for bringing that. But the Summer Olympics, I'm partial to the Summer Olympics. I do like some things in the Winter Olympics. I like the ice skating. I like the speed skating. Some skiing, but I definitely love almost all the sports in the Summer Olympics. I love track and field. I like the gymnastics. I really enjoy the diving. Brandon saying he loves watching curling. I think that's an interesting one. And the Olympics here, I like hockey. I do like to watch the hockey in the winter, but I'm more partial to the Summer Olympics. I enjoy a lot of those sports. Even the bicycling, I like the volleyball. I like the biking. I like most of those things.
I'm partial to the Summer Olympics than Winter Olympics. Obviously, I grew up in Florida, so I wasn't used to the cold until I came up north. So I didn't grow up skiing and playing hockey and all the cold weather sports. But I love sports in general. So I check it out and see if something happens, because again, You never know when something great is going to happen, and you want to be able to say, I saw it when it happened. That's what's great about sports.
That is what, but that's also what's great about the replay and the news media. Even if we miss it, we don't miss it. so that's good. And NBC, you're right. I mean, for years now, they've been playing it 24/7. So I think that's great too. And sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night. That's another thing I like about the Olympics. You can watch, of course, the most popular sports are not at 4 a.m., but there's always something. I think that's when we'll see the synchronized swimming or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Do you remember when hockey had the thing where they had the hockey puck would if someone hit the hockey puck, it would have a color that would follow, be like a line, so you could see the hockey puck go from one spot to the next. Do you remember that?
I do.
When my daughter was born, and if she'd wake up and need a bottle, I would literally stand in front of the TV, put her in my arms like I was holding a football, and rock her, and she would catch that hockey puck going back and forth because of the line that followed the puck. And it put her to sleep in like 5 minutes. And that's when I started to enjoy hockey, because I had to basically stand there and watch hockey as I was holding her. So I have a little soft spot in my heart for hockey. So I do watch playoffs, and a little bit of the playoffs, a little bit of the Stanley Cup because of that. But I'm just, I didn't grow up a hockey fan because we didn't play it in Florida.
Yeah. So I'm a hockey fan as well, and I have my son played for a team here in our home state that was really dedicated to children. I'll say children with unique capabilities, and he was on that team, and it really was a great team, and so I'm partial to hockey as well because of that. They were a great organization, and it was actually a great league. I believe it was an entire league, and that they were great families and great athletes. So I love them. So Brandon is a huge sports fan, but he still wants to shout out that curling. For some reason, he loves to watch curling every time. So that's good to know. That's a good fun fact to know about Brandon. I enjoy knowing that. So we're down to our last 3 minutes. I think it was a great show. I think I had some trepidation and fear that I wasn't going to be able to talk about sports for 60 minutes, but hey, I learned something a lot tonight. I learned I can do whatever I set my mind to, and I enjoyed. The Olympics is a great way to introduce ourselves into this program, because I think it's so diverse and broad, and it gives us gives me an opportunity to catch up on the other sports. Well, I'll be staying up late, reading about football, reading about basketball, and trying to memorize all the faces and facts.
and the goal is to bring in the human and social aspect of sports, because I think there are a lot of people out there that want to talk about that, and struggles moms and dads have with getting their kids back and forth to practice and still maintain their job responsibilities and duties and all that stuff. So we're going to get into a lot of, sports is a microcosm of society, right? So there's going to be a lot to talk about all the time, and we'll approach those topics. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. And I think that there's also controversy. There's so much controversy surrounding sports. Even a random tweet can start off a firestorm in a week. So
well, put it this way. Stephen A. Smith did that when he talked. He said something that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way regarding the major league pitcher who is a pitcher and a slugger. And he's of Asian descent. And Stephen A. Smith said something about he needs an interpreter, and because he needs an interpreter to have conversations with the media, he should not be the face of Major League Baseball. He got a lot of flack for that. He had to apologize. So things like that happen. People slip up, put their foot in their mouth, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about it and critically think about it and give our opinion about it. So that's the kind of stuff that will happen.
All right, perfect. So we're down to the last minute, and I want to bring up Brandon's comment because he knows I love this. So Chris, you know the one I want. the Coast Queen can talk about whatever she wants. I appreciate that shout out, and I couldn't do it without you guys. And we appreciate all of the comments, Brandon and Tim, Nate. Thanks for participating. Of course, Bo, thank you. Thanks for being a great co-host. That's why it's called the Bo and Joe Show. You're the expert here in this arena, and I'm gonna catch up to you though. Maybe I won't be an expert in football, but I'm gonna be an expert in something else. Maybe it's gonna be curling. Curling could be my new sport, Brandon. I learn everything there is to know about curling. That's gonna be my objective.
We're on a journey, and we're gonna learn together. And because I'm gonna learn a lot from you, and so yeah, we are. I am excited to do the show with you, and we're gonna have a good time doing it.
We're gonna have a good time. So I always close by thanking Chris. Chris, we can't do anything without you. It's like a tripod. You're the without you, it's gonna topple. So the best in the business. So Chris, play us out, and thanks everybody. See you next week, though. We're gonna pregame and figure out our game plan.
Absolutely, you got it. Good deal.